All right, G, what's up?
Oh, living the dream, hanging out.
Listen, cliché-er.
Just
Originality.
Clichéing all over the place.
I got your cliché all over me.
How are you?
Good. Do you have any topics for today? There's a lot of unpopular things happening, so you should bring it to the table.
I mean, it's nothing new. It's just ongoing madness, ridiculousness that I keep seeing, like support for a murderer that I just don't understand. You probably know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even know his name. I don't know the kid's name. I don't care to know his name.
I think it's Luigi.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's Luigi.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. I don't care because he's a murderer. And apparently that's something we celebrate now because we are sick and twisted. I just heard someone over the weekend apparently say they're all for him because, well, why don't you go tell a cancer patient that their coverage isn't, their treatment's not going to be covered and see how that feels. I'm not saying that doesn't suck. I'm sure that sucks. Nobody wants to hear that. I think we can all agree that nobody likes insurance companies. Nobody loves to deal with insurance companies. But you get to murder someone and you think you're better than what the insurance company's doing.
All right, and this is very important. It ties into my topic as well. So let's hash this out because it's really important that we know that you have two ways of looking at our culture and civilization. You have the sort of the micro and the macro. Okay, So we have to figure out whether or not we're going to be a sophisticated civilization or we're going to be a very primitive civilization. So, for instance, when you take billionaires and people just scraping by, right? You create that separation between the two, and every civilization ends when there's a disparity between one part and the other. And we play sophisticated, but when it comes down to it in that whole grand scheme of things, we go kill people who break when you're on the lower end of that spectrum and you're looking up, you feel a victim of it, and you have no other choice but to use primitive means in order to skew the math back in the other direction. So that's something that there are good micro thinkers and there are good macro thinkers. So the macro thinker is going to be thinking on the grand scheme of things, should, insurance companies to be depriving people of, medical care so that people are suffering? The answer is no. And on the micro level, should a hero like Robin Hood that we celebrated even in kids' books should steal from people who have more than them and give people that they don't? Yeah. Well, we celebrated that. So if you're not willing to take Robin Hood and condemn Robin Hood for being the asshole that he is, for breaking, the cardinal rule of civilization is that we have a certain rule book that we follow, and killing people and stealing from people are off limits. And a sophisticated, a 12 commandments. We're going to change it. A 12 commandments.
Maybe we need 12. Yeah.
A 12 commandments society, knows how important not ever jumping into what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't covet. You shouldn't be envious. But it's almost like we took the 10 commandments and we parsed out the ones that we really didn't care about dealing with.
Yeah, we're like, those ones there.
So on the micro level, it made us feel good. Every one of those is like, we're making our way up to where killing is something that's just a means to an end. If somebody wronged you and you can justify the fact that, it's an inconvenience to have them alive, then you can go on alive them. So here's my topic. Intelligence.
Ooh, okay.
So we have no choice, and everybody would agree that having an innovative and more sophisticated society means that you need really smart people to be at the helm of it, right? And the more sophisticated, there's going to be people who are like, I'm not smart, right? I don't want to join the sophisticated. I want to do what I do. And as the sophisticated civilization creates a bigger breach between unsophisticated and sophisticated, right? You create that same dichotomy as I've got 1 billion and I've got 5,000. Okay. And when you create that divide, okay. So the big news was last week I had a discussion with my kid. We were talking about engineering, and we're looking on a horizon where we're going to have we're just not going to have enough engineers, people who are good in the math and sciences that allow us to create artificial intelligences and silicon chips and all the things that we need in order to keep building the society in the way that it's headed. And so he's like, all right, I want to keep my options open because I don't know where my engineering is going to serve. So I want to be able to go into mechanical. I want to be able to go into software engineering. I want to have the math principles down where my engineering brain can take me anywhere I want to go. So, Dad, what do I do? And I said, that is the proper plan. Because in 6 years from now, we are going to be in a completely different spot than we are right now. And so get the primary out, look at the next 2 years, and that's what you go for, gangbuster. And then like 4 days later, news article comes out that we're going to have a shortfall of engineers by 160,000. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if you need 160,000 super bright people who know more than drinking beer and watching football, right?
Yeah.
And so we're primarily going to put our focus, creating more of those engineers that we desperately need. But we're not going to fulfill it because our education system is dog shit. And we're not churning out enough people. We're churning out a lot of people who just conform and go with it. And they're just being bred to be workers instead of people who create stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the yesterday's news was the importation of smart people from other countries. So we go to India and we take because they have a culture of education. So those academics that are coming out of there are superior to what our education system, because it's a culture of academics and learning and intelligence. So we go poach what we need. We shut down the border of a bunch of freeloaders who are just going to come into this country to, leech off of the services here. And we fill those quotas with people who are going to add to our engineering need in those, West Coast things.
Is this why I really hope this is not an ignorant comment or question, and I'm sure it is, but I can remember when I was in college, any class I had that happened to sort of also have med students in it, they were quite often foreign. Is that why you think that we would sort of be recruiting out to
from
other?
It for sure.
Yeah.
If we have a shortfall here where we're not creating good enough for them fast enough, then we will go out to the rest of the world and we'll send people there to bring them. In the late 80s, early 90s, we had a big shortfall of doctors. And so we went to India for the hospitals went to India to bring whole groups of people. We set them up and we gave them a start, and then they prospered here because think about it. India, in some of these countries where the culture is just high academics, well, they've got doctors everywhere. They've got people, like the competition is so fierce, you can't make a prosperous living when everybody around you is just as smart as you are. So you come to dumb United States of America, and then you're superior to everybody's intellect that it is. And it's easy to you can put it on 75% throttle and outdo everybody who's watching NFL football and drinking beer.
The bar is so low that
exactly.
I got nothing to worry about.
So if we import these people, then we get the quotas that we need to keep innovating. But that sort of sets up a cycle. We innovate even more, which is going to require more engineering. But if we don't fix education, then we're not going to churn out our own, and we're going to constantly have to poach talent from other countries. Now, maybe we let India do our academics. Maybe we have a slippery little slide from India's academics to right into the United States, economy and workforce. But we create that same divide. As all of our industries require people that our education systems are unable to create, right? Then what are the people that are sitting here thinking that beer and NFL is their life? Like that, I love this. And what do we do with them? Like they are same conversation with AI. If the AI is doing it better and you're sitting at home now you can't even participate because you're just not smart enough. What happens when the country gets more smart or smarter? That was perfect. What happens when it outpaces your ability to play anymore? What's in it for you? You're just going to go and live your peasantry life where everybody else is making it, and you just wish that your government and education system didn't deal you such a bad hand?
Yeah. I mean, NFL and beer is big money.
Yeah.
It is.
For a select few.
It is,
For the consumption of those two things, it is a sentence.
Yeah.
Like you are choosing non-prosperity.
if you're not in the NFL,
well, and I had
you're
this,
just watching.
I had this
drinking.
idea. Let me float this by you.
Okay.
Okay. So, in football, it's heavily recruited. NFL teams go out to colleges go out to high schools. They are looking for talent that are coming up through the ranks to grab them while they're young and put them out there. The way that we hire people in the United States is so damn stupid, right? What are the chances? Okay, so you have a skill set, okay? I want to be able to pull up the database of talents and be able to find out what your actual skill set, your measured, your intellect, I can pull up a football player and know everything that they've done, what their weight, how fast they run a 100-yard dash. Everything about them because I'm going to be utilizing that person in a high skill position, right? And if I go grab you want to put those numbers out as quick as possible so you can be recruited. As a worker, what's your stats, right?
Yeah.
What can you? And if we took 300 million people in the United States and found a way to measure them outside IQ tests and real intelligence measures, and put stats up and let everybody be recruited, well, what are the chances that you were born in the spot where your perfect job is and that yours doesn't exist somewhere in Washington, and just so happen because you're separated from Washington, they will never find you and you will never find them. But AI could find out like, oh, this person is doing this thing and Kelin is the absolute rock star in this department, and it just couples the two of them together. Same dichotomy. All the really talented people will get scooped up and everybody else will find shit, right?
So you're saying almost like rather than a business sort of just looking through resumes of somebody who's already put it out there, it's like, hey, we have this source that says this person has experience at these locations. And
not even experience. True talent. You're walking around with a gift, and here is the gifts.
How did they know that?
You can be measured in all, like you can have biological capacities if you smoke, if you have great neural function, if you're strong, just like in the NFL. Like, I don't care that you played for the Broncos. That's not even entering into my talent formula, right? I want to know how fast you can do something, how hard you can hit someone, how far you can hit the ball. Things that are measurable from what you can do. If I brought you in, right, you're a person that had 92 tackles last season, and I can measure that. We just have to take intelligence and separate it from academics. Because if somebody came in here with what they've studied and they've got a master's, I would take a shit on that diploma, right? It means absolutely nothing to me. But if you have a skill set where you could put, and I dump on IQs because it's just an extension of our education system, and it's not a real measure of capacities that somebody would have. You could take a really dumb person that's never taken an IQ test, and they have the capacity to hit those numbers if they were ever in that spot. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have a college degree and can honestly say I have never needed it. It has never mattered
because
in getting
a building
job.
up on a hill somewhere that needed money, and they were willing to trade you a piece of paper for all that money, and that's the NFL. That is drinking beer.
It was nice to have, and I do think I did benefit to an extent from the courses I took when it comes to what I want to do.
So if you were just measured, if the AI thermometer was put on you and you just judged based on what you could do, and it wasn't, you get to argue your way into doing it, it was a true measure of what it is, would that put you at an advantage or a disadvantage?
If it could argue what I could do based on...
You couldn't argue. You couldn't say, I will do it better, or I should have done it better. It's just... What have you done?
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, if you just look at, like, grades, that's not always accurate. I know a lot of really smart people that can't test and, or people that are like, yeah, I know the subject, but I just didn't get a good grade because of ABC factors going into it. So
science can totally make up ways of measuring true talent and, sophistication, true intellect, without having an academic extension of it where it's like, how many courses did you take and you can get a good grade, just feeding the system that is the college complex that wants to sell you more courses rather than really just measure how real smart you are. You should be able to take someone who's never taken an organized or traditional education course, and you should be able to measure what their capacity for intelligence would be based on their intuitions, their instincts, measuring their ability to process things through this thing up here.
So how do you do that without ultimately having to do some sort of test.
How would you get a computer to do it? You would give it programming that allows it to have logical analysis of things and be able to process information in a certain way. Then it's just waiting for information. College is the information part, but who taught you how to be smart? Who taught you have intelligence? You got lucky because you were born with a way of processing the information they gave you. What about people that were never taught, right? Mm-hmm. But the sciences are so liberal articized. That's a word now, liberal articized.
Liberal articized.
Yeah. Where it's the creative expression and what your feelings mean and consuming these courses that cost money, right? And education is drawing out intelligence, teaching you. So if, let's just say you have sciences. Have you ever heard I'm a visual learner, auditory learner, blah,
Kinetic,
blah, blah, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a real thing or not?
I feel like it is to an extent. I mean, I know personally that depending on how I am shown how to do something, it seems to stick more with me. You know, like I'm the kind of person that'll be like, okay, I have to do it a few times to remember. If someone just tells me, gone in a matter of minutes. But if I've done it a few times, it sticks.
Okay, you should have that answer in 1 second. Because if your job as a human being is to bring in new information and learn things, if you don't know the proper way of getting the most amount of information with the least amount of effort in, then what's your job is not feeding yourself information. If I said, do you know how to put gas in your car, right? You could go through the linear steps of putting fuel in your car, and it has a step one, just like we would do with a computer, right? We tell it, what do you do step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's like, go learn something. What is the process of learning something, right? A human being should have that so mastered, and every scientist and every academic should be feeding new ways of getting the most amount of information processed into your brain as quickly as possible. We're human beings, you know, if sophisticated deal that needs a lot of intelligent people, but none of the people can tell you how to grab that intelligence and make it stick. Do you think it should take 12 years to put the amount of information that a high school graduate gets? Do you think it should take 12 years? Why does it take 12 years if it shouldn't? What if I told you I could do it in 3? Is there a program that says I will learn at the speed that my brain will allow information, and maybe the first 2 years learning, teaching you how to learn rather than just giving you information to memorize?
See, now, one thing, though, that I think we maybe disagree on is when it comes to school and our education system, not that it's not flawed or anything, but to me, I also see value in a child being in school other than just what they're learning, other than just academic, the social skills that are learned there, the ability to work together with other people, which they will ultimately use when they are out of school and in the workplace. I feel like there are soft skills involved, social skills involved, different things that are not just here is your book and assignment and
I'm
test.
cool with that argument, but how are we doing with that? You got to measure it. Are these soft social skills?
Yeah.
Or are they taking root, and that we have a civilized society that you don't fear putting other people in? I would say we're failing that department too. So if that's one of the end goals of education, that one needs to be scrapped too, or at least have some, intelligent people crafting it. So I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Everybody's forced through a public education system that is 100% programmed for mediocrity. All right. Excellent people in school. The reason it takes 12 years, it's not because you're smartest person. It's your dumbest person that makes it take 12 years. So then you have to penalize the smart people and learn at the pace of your dumbest person. And what does that do? That makes your dumb person probably not get a lot out of it, but it really makes that really smart person get nothing out of it and get frustrated into thinking that's what learning is. If I could pick up a book and master a subject in 1 month, it's got to take 9 weeks because of the dumb kid in the class who's eating glue.
Well, really, though, I mean, to your point, I almost feel like you can't even say if they're smart or dumb, because the dumb one that maybe isn't picking things up as fast as the other, wouldn't you say it's possible that they're just not taking the test as well? They're not doing the assignment as well, because that's not how they
and that's where I think the sciences should be. If you profiled someone from their ability and capacity to process information, you can parse people out based on how they take information and treat them completely separate. If our education system grouped everybody in like, they did it poorly in public. They used to take people who had learning disabilities and put them separate, right? But that was a sentence, right? What if we had a way through our ability as educators to take the dumbest person and bring them up to a certain level where they had, we're going to do social credit scores for a minute, right?
Okay.
So we're going to take every person and we're going to make sure that every person has a net positive on society, right? And so artificial intelligence will know who should live and who should die based on who's giving or who's taking more than they're giving, right? And so the goal with education is to take the person that's deficient, doesn't have the ability, bring them up to certain levels so they can somehow get an adequate net gain on the rest of society. And that way nobody will be like, hey, you're just a tax on us and we're going to have to support you for the rest of your life. Like, let education treat them differently. And then you have the regular, the mediocre of the mediocre, the baseline averages in society, right? And they're going to be okay, but they're going to be watching NFL football and drinking beer, right? They're never going to be high achievers. They're
I'm like hating on people who watch football.
They are the freaking majority. That when you have the high achievers that in their free time pick up a book and learn physics, and then you have the low achievers that they say, "What's a book?" And you have the middle part that said, "I know I could pick up a book, but there are other impulses that I need." Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the majority of the mediocre people that are in the middle is who education serves in the middle. So if we say we want high intellect engineers and our whole civilization depends on high achievers, and the bulk and majority of people aren't contemplating, aren't processing, never taught how to learn, they've never been mastered. Like, I believe those middle people are the easiest to convert to high achievers because it's not necessarily a deficiency, right? It's a will problem.
Yeah.
They don't really want to. They know nobody taught them how, and the people that do figure it out, they're not like, well, nobody showed me how either. I just wanted it so bad I tackled it. So, but those mediocre people are going to have the most frustration in real life too, because they know they could if they got their asses off the couch for sure, right? And they're going to feel victimized because they're watching these people who are at the same level achieving when they're not. Those are the people who are going to rise up and do your Luigi, kill the CEO, because they're not going to compute that they did that, because nobody's telling the mediocre people that they're injuring themselves.
You're saying the people like Luigi were the mediocre.
Yeah.
That now we're like, oh, I think I'm going to go do something big.
Yeah, representative of the middle. He was actually probably a pretty high achiever.
I think he was Ivy League school or something.
But we're using him as the analog to say, didn't know very much about the topic, looked at an injustice, and went right to let's go kill somebody who's not responsible.
Because, that's one of the things I was thinking when I'm like, everyone's like, oh, he was very intelligent and educated in Ivy League and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, to me, I would think, okay, that was just a good test taker who got to where he is. Because to me, a truly intelligent person would have realized that murdering someone is not going to solve the problem and is not going to do anything but cause harm to people, when there were other things that you could do to actually cause change and affect things in a positive way, and maybe have an outcome that is more desired than just, kill someone, dead, and now I feel better.
Yeah, that's why I call them academics, because you want your high level learning institutions to churn out people who are critical thinkers, right? And it would take in 3 lines of logic for me to say that killing that person is not my best way to have change, right?
Yeah.
So he's just an academic, someone who went through an indoctrination clinic that has, probably got a lot of paper on the walls, but isn't somebody who I would say, yeah, grab that person and put them in charge of things.
Yeah.
He's dumb as the mediocre people. He just happened to have more money and got more stuff on the wall. But if the majority even of our high academics, have you ever watched the interviews they do to out college students? They ask them questions about things that are whatever. Do you hear how brain freaking dead they actually are? It is, and I know it's not everyone.
Yeah.
But they are so stupid So have your kids ever taken any kind of karate, taekwondo, or anything like that?
Like little bit of taekwondo when they were little.
Okay. So I call most of the taekwondo places belt factories, right? They make a lot of money by taking those tests and selling belts.
Oh, yeah. They hand it to you, for sure.
They do.
The testing is just
That is
show.
Colleges. They figured out that if they can, you will pay for diplomas. It's the valuable thing out of it. And even if I have to nudge you, like you're supposed to break a board to pass the test and you almost break it, here's your belt, Sonny, because that's academics right now. You don't have to actually be an intelligent person to get that diploma on the wall, right? Mm-hmm. That's the valuable thing. I sold it to you, and even if I had to fill your little head with lesbian dance theory, right, to get that, so be it. You paid for it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember thinking something was wrong with me when I was getting ready to graduate from college, and a lot of my friends, we all had the same major and everything. They were like, "Oh, so where are you going to go to grad school?" And I said, "I'm not." "Oh, you're not going to go into grad school? You're not going to go?" "No." "Why?" I was like, because this is boring and I don't want to be in school. I'd rather go work and make money. I already have a job set up. I know what I want to do. I have a degree that is cool, but I don't know if I need it yet. And I want to go work and make money and start my life and not sit here in this room all day every day anymore. And I was like, is it me? Am I just not motivated? Am I not smart enough? Like, why are they all saying, "Oh, let's even continue our education"?
Because
and I'm like, I want to go out and do something.
Here's the thing. College is the timeshare for this generation.
Oh.
It's
the timeshare.
It's the timeshare of this generation. If you entered logic through it, you would never in a million years buy a timeshare, but it's been pitched in a way to you that makes it seem like a good idea. College, say the same thing about it. It's the timeshare of this next generation.
Yeah, because, I mean, and again, it's not that I'm not grateful for my degree. And yes, I did learn things in college.
Here's what I want you to say.
Not the degree itself.
No. I want you to say you hate the fact that you gave all that money to a place and sold you toilet paper to hang on your wall when you could have, you had the brain that you could have fetched the same knowledge and been every bit as brilliant as you are right now. That's what I want you to say, because that is true.
I don't.
Okay, give me the benefit then.
I think I had good experiences through the classes, regardless of grade, regardless of piece of paper that came from it. Being there with the other people, interacting, seeing different concepts come into play, learning different techniques, especially for someone that was going into the communications realm of the workplace.
So you couldn't have got that anywhere else. You couldn't gone to a place with professionals and hung around and networked with those people and got the same thing without paying the tuition.
Yeah, possibly.
But you're crediting the institution much like the timeshare person would do, because you're justifying bad behavior with pseudo benefits that you could have gotten anywhere else. You could have gone to my favorite line in Good Will Hunting, right? Mm. You remember that line?
I just remember I got a phone number. About them apples.
Like apples?
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you got an education that you could have gotten for a bunch of late fees with a library card, is what it comes down to. Oh. But the prestige of what's on the wall is what they sold you, right? And that's how they get away with it, where they indoctrinate, and now they've just got evil written all over what they do. Because, I mean,
it feels terrible to say, but I've never needed that degree. There have been instances where, obviously I'm going to put it on a resume or say it in an interview, I have this degree. But I think almost all of the bosses I have ever worked for, unless they were a medical professional, didn't have one at all. Every time I've been told why I was given a job I hired you because of, it was never the degree. It was, you seem good at this or good at this or whatever.
All right. Question. So in high school, did they ever tell you about your permanent record?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
So threatening, sort of like that this will go on a record that it'll carry with you for the rest of your life. And it had control over you and maybe made you do different decisions. And if I told you that there really even wasn't a permanent record, and nobody's looked at your permanent record since you graduated high school, what would you say about the permanent record? Would you say that maybe it wasn't real this whole time and it was only given value for the sake of control?
Yeah.
So,
or even like your grades and
so everything
getting into college.
Everything you said about your diploma, you can apply the exact same logic. Don't you think that the diploma is kind of fake? It's not real? Unless they're like trading cards where you can take other people that went there and you can commiserate by maybe trading them with each other because they value it too.
Yeah.
So it means something to somebody else has done it.
You know what? I am so glad we're having this conversation because my daughter, who is in 5th grade, she's only 10, almost 11, just missed an entire week of school because she was really sick. And I have been so stressed out about her missing that week. Why? I have even seen her grades are fine. She gets her homework done. She's a very intelligent kid. I see that in multiple ways. And all I could think is, oh my God, she's going to miss an entire week of school, and that's 5 days, and she can't miss anymore and all this. And I've been so stressed out. Why? Like, is that going to matter in a year, in 5 years? Is that going to matter when she's a grown-up that she got sick and missed a week of school in 5th grade?
Well, there's one thing that you draw out of that. Okay, so if I were looking at, and this is a measurable that you can tell about a person that you could put on your stat sheet.
Okay.
If you had a person that was willing to commit to a long-term goal and they achieved it without trying to bail out on it, you tackled something that was difficult and you stuck through it. That would be one line item.
Yeah.
The tenacity to be able to do something that was difficult. Different topic, but if academics, if college institutions, I point up on the hill up there because there is one.
Right that way.
If their product is selling education, selling information, right? Mm-hmm. Then anybody should be able to go there, like the buffet, see a class that they really like, be able to give money to go ahead and take that class and never have another requirement to take another class or to go to a degree or spend so much time there. I'm just going to go up there and buy some information. And I don't believe there are many colleges that will, there are some, but there wouldn't be a college to be like, oh, you just want information for money? No, we want to sucker you in for the long-term buy. And I want to sell you classes that you would never pick on your own.
So many things are making sense now. I remember I was a senior in college, and I don't know how I missed this, but I got to all the way to be a senior almost my final semester, trying to look into what I need to graduate, and found out then that it is required that I choose a minor. And I'm like, oh shit, how'd I miss that? I need a minor to graduate. Oh, you can't graduate without a minor.
Interesting.
So all I did is look through all the credits I have and all the classes I've taken. I saw, what do I have the most in that almost constitutes a minor? Sociology. Great. What do I need? 1 or 2 more sociology classes. You can claim that as a minor. Let's do it. I now have a sociology minor. Why? Because I had to have a minor.
So I'm at Best Buy right now, and I'm like, oh, Kelin, you want to buy this TV? In order to buy this TV, you have to buy this $200 surge protector. Have to. If you want to buy the TV, got to go with the surge protector. It makes good business sense to be able to sell you shit that you wouldn't have purchased on this.
Yeah.
And I had to like sucker you in. You're in the store already. You fell in love with this TV. Now I give you a have to that you got to spend more money on something you didn't come in here to buy. You would be pissed as a consumer, but the big colleges, they get away with selling you shit that you would never buy otherwise.
Yeah. Like, I've been here 4 years. I've come to all the classes. I did my work. And now it's almost time to graduate. And they're like, well, here's a checklist of things you better have done.
Oh, do they cost stuff? Everything on a checklist. Does it mean you have to pay more?
Of course it does.
You're kidding me. Like, the forced sale of...
Pay for the class. Pay for the books that go with it, the materials that go with it.
This is a good system for somebody.
And you can't leave
Guess
with this document you wanted until you've checked all these boxes.
Who do you think's winning in this deal? The colleges.
Such a fool.
All right. So anyway, back to the mediocrity. And we have to decide, in both on the micro side and the macro, that the real goal with all of this is that we want a meritocracy. We want the people that are stronger, faster, smarter to do the jobs. And we want the incentive for everybody to become stronger, faster, smarter, right? To be there as the incentive to be able to get over here, right? Without creating a too big a divide between the two. Versus what we have right now is we kind of like nurture mediocrity, right? We create victim classes and tell people that they can't get it. And there's people like our Luigi guy, like we totally tell them that they can't change the world. And the best thing that you could do, if you disagree with something, you're going to go chant, right? Maybe some murder, write something on some social media, and that's how you're going to change the world rather than get involved, right? Oh, so you think it's an injustice that the cook at a hamburger place only makes minimum wage. Cool. You know how you change it? You go open a hamburger place, make the best hamburgers in the world, and pay them whatever you think that should happen, and you show the freaking world your math is fucking legit.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was thinking of this guy. Like, hey, you're college educated, right? You're an Ivy League, right? You're so smart. You have all this great background. Why don't you go start a company that is going to somehow pay for the health care of these people?
100%.
Why don't you go become a politician and actually have a dog in the fight of what laws pass to affect these things?
Yeah,
no, that would have been too difficult.
The reason we're effed so bad right now is because that we did decide that a mediocrity is what we wanted, right? So if you had a bank and it was on the verge of failure, right? In a meritocracy, things that are failures fail. We let them and let somebody who didn't fail take their place. That's a meritocracy. But as long as we can rescue somebody who should fail from failing, if we take somebody who made bad choices, when you fill them in there, there's no now incentive to not have a bank that doesn't fail. Go do bad practices. But now, that would be, if I had Luigi sitting in front of me and saying, why did you do this? Because he was victimized, he doesn't agree with the system. And in the insurance industry, you can't inflict change. I can't start an insurance company because it's heavily regulated and the players that are in there would go to the end of the world to stop me. Hamburger stand, totally can do that. Insurance, or there's other really good deal, industries that I'm kept out of. And so the uprising from the mediocre will go after the sweet deal industries every single time.
Yeah. Well, and I think we are so twisted too as a nation that we make that easy out, that easy play of I'm unhappy, I kill someone, rather than try to do something that affects change.
But that's
inevitable. We celebrate them.
Yeah, it's inevitable though.
But then the people that do go to bat legally, try to affect change, speak up for things, try to make people become their own healthcare advocates and do changes themselves that make them healthier, to not rely on these evil, corrupt organizations, they are labeled as crazy or corrupt or whatever. Like, I got to bring them up again, like RFK Jr. Anyone who even questions the validity of something that we're all used to, you're the crazy one.
But that is bring the super intelligent down to the level of the mediocre, because that represents the change that puts the mediocre, who've been served and coddled and given every victim excuse to stay right where they are. What do you think they're going to do? Okay, let's role play. All right, so you're sitting, you went through all of the engineering classes, and you're good enough to be able to get the diploma, but you're not bright. Like, if you really measured you out, you're just kind of average, right? But you did enough to be able to buy the diploma.
It's kind of how I feel I am.
So next year, they need 10,000 high-end engineers, right? And so they take a boat over to India, and they just package up the best and the brightest, and they show up on the shore right outside your neighborhood. And you see the people who are now getting the $300,000, $400,000 jobs that your diploma says you might even be entitled to. Are you going to be like, oh, okay, man, I better get inspired and maybe I can become that too? Or do you label them the crazy, stupid, ignorant, whatever, and try to bring them down to your level so that now you don't have to get energized to go get better? You want to bring them down to you so that you don't have to do anything different and you just get the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what they do with the high earners, high sophisticates, the top end of what we're after in a meritocracy. But we have this math formula that doesn't work. If I were structuring this and I were actually engineering the system, then my first move would be breaking down the sweet deals for everyone. Nobody gets a pass. It is pass, fail. And you have a described, really high resolution checklist of what it means to be a thing without argument. Because you're not going to argue that your 4.0 or your 3.9 was a 4.0. It says high achiever equals 4.0, and then it asks you, what was your grade point average? There's no debate, no excuses, no you know what, I make a little money if I give you that extra point, and I'll let you qualify for something that you didn't qualify. Meritocracy means, here's the definition. If you give me a rock, I'll give you $1, right? We both know what it means to, if you gave me the rock, yes, no. Did I give you the $1? Yes, no. It is complete, like a programming on a computer. It would be completely, it would be outside of the arbitrary or what your feelings or what you felt like express, what make you feel bad. I think there should be no more sweet deals. We pull down the institutions that sabotage merit, and we make it 100 so free from personal intervention that a computer could figure out what the results were.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too. I mean, I've heard things like Elon Musk, when he's interviewing people or trying to see who might be the type of thinker or intellect that he wants working for his company. I've heard he gives them a test, but it's a very unique test to kind of see how they think.
You know what the best job posting that I've ever seen, and this was in the 90s, on 680, Google, when they were just coming out, right? They put a billboard up, and it was a math formula. And it said, if you figure out this formula, go to this website. And that was their hiring. If you had the brain to figure out and know what that formula was, they wanted to recruit you, and it was a entry. It kept everybody that they didn't want. If you don't know the code, you're not going to the site and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was perfect because it measured something.
Never been hired.
Yeah, and that's where in a meritocracy, the best people are hired for something, and then employers aren't wasting their time with a bunch of people who could be. You're hiring someone who actually has the skill set. I need a running back who can run, a quick 100-yard dash that has sure hands, right? Let me go to my catalog of running backs who are that. Oh, he's available. Go get him, and then purchase the thing that you wanted.
Yeah, and I remember my mom telling me many, many, many years ago, when I was in college and working towards a degree and everything. She was talking about all the people in her office that have degrees that are totally different realms and areas of what they do. Like she was in social work and they would hire someone with an English degree or something of that nature. And she's like, Kel, what that is they just want to make sure you will stick to something. If you have an employer that's like, do you have a degree? It's not always, what is your degree in? Again, with some exceptions. But I was always told they want to see that you will commit to something and see it through, that you will work hard at something to achieve something. That's what getting your degree is. And I was like, well, okay, I like that. And I'm seeing that more and more. That's what it is.
It's a very expensive.
It
very
is.
expensive. Like I can
very
tell you.
Very expensive. Look what I stuck to.
Here's some creative ideas. Pick something else that doesn't cost money and say, I decided for 4 years to do something, a responsibility, and I measured and calculated every time I did it. Here's me doing this thing for 6 years, and this cost me nothing except for doing the thing for 6 years, and look how dependable I will be.
So here's a question for a business owner who hires people, looks at resumes and things. How do you feel about the idea when someone has listed a lot of different jobs where they're not there very long? I've heard some people say, well, clearly then you're not going to stick around. You don't show any commitment. You job hop. And why would I want to risk you coming here, me going through the process of onboarding you, and then you leave? And I've heard some people say, oh, well, that shows a lot of job experience. I've tried a lot of different things. And if it didn't work, I tried something else. And where are you as a business owner and somebody who would want to hire someone? on that.
It's just a data point, and it could mean something if it's related to other data points that you collect that can tell a storyline about what that person is. And that's what I'm saying. Like when you measure people and what they do, that is not a single pass fail. Like if somebody came to me and said that they were autistic, right? And then so everything in your mind is concocting, how will this autistic person be able to do the job that's at hand, right? That would have to go in conjunction with other things. What benefits of that autism, what downside of that autism, and tell a whole story about what that person could do, positive and negative. So everybody in the end, especially with like a social credit score, has either a net benefit or net cost, right? And when you're calculating what somebody's going to do for you, everybody's going to have net costs, and they're going to be in all kinds of different departments, right? So that's why I won't take one data point and make it just about that data point. I might have to tolerate a net cost, right? The autistic person for a highly developed logic processor, where I get a plus 3,000 on one side and a negative 30 on the other side. If I end up in the day, like, this is a net benefit to having them around here. But more logic-based we are, the more that we can take these intangibles and calculate them in a way to know whether or not we're making a good decision or a bad decision. Emotional people are effed, right? Because emotional people can be sold anything. You could be told that you can't graduate and get education if you don't buy this surge protector, right? Because you can be appealed to. Somebody can sell me a timeshare and they will appeal to me in a certain way. And because I'm an emotional decision maker, that could skew me into making an illogical decision. Like if I chop off your arm, right, you will swim differently. And I could sell you to chop off your arm if I'm skillful and emotional. But if I'm logical, I won't be able to get over the fact that you are cutting off a part of me that does things. I'm going to lose all the things that it does to me. And if you haven't given me a benefit that offsets what you took from me, it's a no deal, no matter how great you tell me it is, or tell me about the benefits that I can achieve because of it. Emotional people can be sold. Logical people, you can't trick math.
Well, in that same vein, then, wouldn't you say emotional people can sell?
Heck yeah.
So,
and manipulate and lie and scheme and cheat and steal. Yeah.
So really, they're not always effed. They can also do the effing.
But if AI's on the horizon and AI can't be sold, then all they have to do is they're going to go right from sales to manipulation. Because really, a salesperson, you're trying to get someone to buy something. You're trying to change what isn't happening into something that is happening. And there's honest salespeople that are just lining people up and informing people. That's not sales to me.
Yeah.
But the best salespeople are just informers. You can say no to them. And what was a Miracle on 34th Street, where Santa Claus started telling everybody that Higbee's across the way. He was at Macy's and he was like, Higbee's across the way. They've got the toy that you want. Right? You remember that?
I never did see that movie
really?
Entire. Yeah, I caught like bits and pieces.
So Santa was like, we don't have it here, but across the way, which is their major competitor, has the toys. And one guy got super pissed about it because the salesperson, because like we're turning our back, customers are leaving our store and buying something else. Santa's job was to pitch these products because we sell these products. Now you've taken information, which is something they needed. You're going to have to sell them on something that they don't need because you benefit from the sale of that item.
Yeah.
Right? But in the movie, they went across the way, and it was a huge marketing campaign where it filled the store because people were so appreciative that they were told the truth, and that carried some, virtuous value to it. That was a good message.
Yeah.
But that is the difference. So Washington, right? Their job is to get stuff done. They manipulate to get things done. So your biggest salespeople are Washington and the politicians. Politicians equal salespeople. The worst kind. Not the informers.
Yeah. I always hated sales. And everyone's like, oh, well, sales is just showing them, something you like and what it is. And I'd be like, okay, well, if that's the case, then I don't want to be a salesperson. I just want to be a company representative. Like, let's just change the title, because I'm not going to sell something that I don't think people need, or I don't think will benefit them. Yeah.
You were sold a college diploma, but they were even more manipulative, because they didn't sell you. They sold an entire culture right? Like the De Beers company and the diamonds, right? They sold you. Diamonds are freaking worthless and so plentiful. They should be worth $10 and they're worth hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. The reason they are, because they were able to manipulate an entire ecosystem and change the whole measure of where diamonds could even be bought. And they marketed the shit out of it. And now every marriage, what if I decided not to do a diamond ring for a marriage? What do you think the mediocres would do in the middle? Do you think they would adopt it, or do you think they would mock it? Do you think that they would cast it out as weird? And same thing they're doing with the Vivek and the RFK Juniors, right? Because that is a part of human nature.
I know a couple girls that didn't want a diamond, but
high achievers would say, logically, that's stupid to buy a rock like that. It doesn't mean what you think it means. It means you're really dumb with your money because you bought something that is almost one of the most plentiful things on earth and can be manufactured. You should have got something that was actually meaningful in the most amount of value, right? With the least amount of cost is what true logic would have lent. It wouldn't have been a diamond ring. 100% chance.
Oh, I'm sure we do a lot of things that are just strictly tradition-based,
manipulated by someone to lie to a culture and an entire ecosystem rather than selling you the new car or the TV.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Absolutely. So if you had to be devil's advocate for a college, what are the pros? Because I still think there are social skills and worldly concepts that you can pick up while you're there. Do you want to pay for them? Probably not.
I don't want to learn from a professor, right? I want to learn from a professional. So if there are people like I would have the university work with every business in the community, and I would place students that were in something with people who are doing that thing for a living, so you could use real world skills and not like. So if you're really good at something, how do you become a professor rather than just doing that in the marketplace? Is it public service where you're like, I know I can make millions doing this in the real world, but I'm going to go be a professor for $100,000? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
I would think that
if you teach marketing, have you ever been a marketing director?
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So those won't be my high achievers. Those were people who weren't good enough to really make prosperity in the real marketplace, but good enough to be able to teach somebody else to go buy diplomas and whatever. They're my salespeople. And I do not want you, right, learning soft skills and social skills from someone who's hauled up in a classroom somewhere teaching it.
And I do think I know a couple of people that joined the university later because they were already working in a field, and now they are teaching that to students at a university, which is fine. But I think of things like one of the most useful concepts I think that I saw in the real world was this idea that I feel like everybody gets in school: group work, group assignments. Here is a project. Here is your group. You didn't pick them. They are signed. It's you. You guys are now in a group, and you will work on this project, and you will complete this project, and you all are getting the same grade. I don't care who does what. I don't care who's putting in more work. I don't care who's slacking. I don't care if two people did the whole project. You all will get the same grade. And that concept is in the real world.
Yes, and I disagree with it being in the real world. In a meritocracy, failure would be failure. If you take the caboose who didn't do shit and he gets the same grade as you, you're teaching socialism. And we don't want people to learn.
I mean, that happens. Absolutely.
For sure.
I've seen it in every workplace I have been in. The one or two or three people that carry the place and work hard and put in the time and effort, and the slackers that show up and leave.
We are supporting those. Yep. Yeah.
And they are all rewarded the same.
You would need institutional change where we all decided on the macro that we didn't give all of the power to the mediocre, to pull those levers. We would give the power to the smart people, right, to institute it on a, moral level, right? You don't want the people in the middle to suffer. We want you to throw them a bone of, you can come here too, right?
Yeah.
But as long as we make excuses for the mediocre, right, they hold all the power in the culture.
Yep.
But that's how it is. If your government is like that and your society is like that, you have no choice but to also be that way. Or you will be the weird ones where it's like, oh, we're going to take a meritocracy business, right? Over here. There's only a couple of pure meritocracies that are existing at this point, right? Because they have to. Like, for instance, NFL football is one of them, right? If you can't take put me out on the field to make that paycheck, I'll get slaughtered. It has to be something. And if you suck, you are freaking gone, right?
Yeah.
Except for Deshaun Watson. if you're you just don't make it there. And so like maybe in the financial field, where if you're a commission only person, if you make a customer a bunch of money, you get a lot of money. If you make nothing, you make nothing. That would be a meritocracy. Failure is rewarded with failure, and success is rewarded with success.
Yeah.
But that would, like I said, not even devil's advocate, but if I was the engineer of how to fix all of this, which I give it a 0% chance of ever happening. 0. We are I'll interrupt myself here. Are we hosed, and there's anything, or can we come back from this? Is there anything that saves us?
It would take time, and it would take being able to convince a new generation of this idea so that things can change. I wouldn't say it's impossible.
0%.
It would be
you have to churn out
years.
You have to churn out your first one, and then that be your small scale proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
If you can churn out one of them that can get in that mindset, be taught those philosophies, take all the 10 commandments and accept them as truth, and carry that for the rest of their life without succumbing to the outside influence of corruption, right? If you can do it once, then make a couple thousand and maybe a couple 100,000, and then the majority of the population will follow. If you can't make one, if you know you're at a disadvantage when you do the right thing, all you're going to get is the wrong things until collapse. Collapse is the only thing that you get so eaten up, right, that you have to tear the whole thing down and build it from go. So we go to Mars, and we've got a chance to bring meritocracy, and that's it. The minute that we bring somebody who wants to freeload on Mars, right, we're effed, because now we've jacked up another civilization. So that's why I want to go to Mars most, is because they're not going to send people there that are freeloaders. You got to be able to do something, because that's justification for you going there. And if you don't do something, they're going to throw you out of the airlock, and you're going to be problem solved.
Yeah.
Right? So all I'm going to be, if you want to have group work and you want to be surrounded by people who are going to pull their own way, you'll be on the flight to Mars with me.
Yeah. That's why my husband, when he joined the military, he had high goals. He wanted to go to Ranger Battalion. And anyone who knows anything about Ranger Battalion, it's an elite group of the military. It can be very difficult to get to. And from the moment he joined as a high school kid, he's like, that's what I want to do. And he's like, because I'm not going to be somewhere that I am surrounded by people that joined the Army because they had to, because they messed up their life. They had no other choice. There was nothing left for them. They screwed up royally, and now they have to turn their life around. They're going into the military. That's not who has my back. If my life is on the line, the people who have my back better have worked hard to get there, and it means something to them to be there. And that's who you want around you. So
yeah, I think we have to choose one of two things, or we have to choose both of these, actually. What do you do with the mediocre? How are they treated? What are they given to work on? How do you get them in front of a football game and drink their beer for as long as possible so they don't ruin things for other people? And how do you segment out the high achievers so they can go off and innovate without the mediocre wanting to come in and claim something that they've built? That's really the only deal. So we're not going to fix it. You're still going to have your mediocre, just like you're going to have your slow, just like you're going to have your stupid, right? And you got to figure out what to do with them, not that we need to remove them. Because I doubt that's a good selling point, to exterminate people who won't become high. Because that would be the only other reason. Get rid of them or put them to use. That's really all your choices.
Yeah.
On Mars, you can throw them out of the airlock and it takes care of itself. But on Earth, you can't do that.
It almost sounds like you need to make like a new class system. But it's based off of what? Intelligence, work ethic, drive.
The social
whatever
credit
you
score.
have in those.
The measuring the score based on what you can contribute and easily measurable. But if we have a virtual reality, we put people into the simulation. I'm picking all the mediocre people first. I put that hood on them, simulate an existence, reduce the liability and cost to everyone else, and keep them just active until they leave gracefully.
Interesting.
So the intelligent people are going to throw the simulation at the people that don't contribute so they can serve the rest of the time on Earth.
So just to be clear, the people supporting this murderer, Luigi.
Yes.
Would you say they are of that average to low intelligence?
Mediocre. Yep.
Regardless of the accolades hanging on their wall and the education level they reached in a school system.
When you think about that, think about the interview that you could do with the college kid, the educated or the academic, right? Mm-hmm. If you just ask, simple question, there's a problem, there's an injustice, there's something we want to solve. How do you want to solve it, right? If they say something like make signs and chant, they're the Luigis of the world. Right? They're not really changing the world. All they did was express themselves how their pea brains told them that they should, and it doesn't really change anything. If they say something like, I'm going to become a governor, or a mayor, or a legislator, whatever, and I'm going to, actually make some mathematical change, now you're talking to someone who's willing to make sacrifices and make something that even has the smallest potential of making a change.
And that's the thing. To me, the intelligence would have lied in someone that is able to see, if I kill this person, what are the next steps? Nothing. You go to jail and nothing changes. That was it. Hope you felt better in that moment because that was it. Or it could have been, I educate myself on how to maybe start a business like this that can actually help people. I go to the government and start working with people on policies that might help people. I do steps that make change that could change the problem forever, saving lives for years to come.
That would be a practical response.
That would have been, let me look a few steps down the road at what my options are and how it will turn out. And all that was squandered in one moment.
So the mediocre, when I say the torches and pitchforks people, those are the people. All you got to do is whisper in their ear, Frankenstein's in that castle up there. And they don't know how to respond to it. But if they get in a group that is stupid enough, they'll grab their pitchforks and collectively they feel like they're doing something, right? Mm-hmm. So the Luigis of the world was hoping. He writes out this manifesto, and he hopes all the other people who are just as smart as he is grab their gun and take out the other CEOs. But what he found out is it's almost like he was the only one that did it, and it feels like, shit, like, I thought thousands of people would be lined up taking out CEOs.
What? I got support on social media.
And it felt like it, I bet.
They liked me on social media because that freaking mattered.
Yeah, and they talk tough on there, so you felt like as soon as he did it, you'd have this mass exodus of people going out there and taking care of all those CEOs.
Oh, but no, what did happen? Let's see. The president then pardoned mass murderers, and the same people praising Luigi are mad at him.
It's where we're at.
Yep.